Hello everyone, and welcome back to Choice to Learn. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that choosing them meant hurting the people you loved most? Sometimes, the hardest decisions in life are not between right and wrong. They are between two people you love. This is the story of Sara. She was 24 when she first met Ayan. There was nothing extraordinary about their first meeting. No romantic music. No perfect moment. It happened on an ordinary afternoon when Sara was waiting outside a small bookstore for her younger brother. Ayan was standing nearby, trying to pick up a pile of books he had accidentally dropped. Sara helped him. "Thank you," he said. "You're welcome." That was it. At least, that's what Sara thought. They met again a few weeks later. Then again. Soon, their conversations became longer. They talked about books, family, dreams, and the kind of life they wanted someday. Ayan wasn't rich. He didn't drive an expensive car. He didn't come from a powerful family. But he had something Sara's father valued more than money, at least, Sara believed he did. He worked hard. He respected people. And whenever Sara spoke, he actually listened. One evening, Ayan finally said the words Sara had secretly been waiting to hear. "I want to marry you." Sara smiled. But her smile didn't last long. "My family will never agree." "Why?" "Because you're not what they imagined for me." Ayan looked down. What did they imagine? Sara gave a small sad laugh. "Someone wealthy. Someone with a big house. Someone who can give them the kind of life they think I deserve." Ayan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I can't promise you a big house." Sara looked at him. "But I can promise that I'll spend my life trying to build a good home with you." Those words stayed with her. A few days later, Sara told her parents. Her mother cried. Her father became furious. "You will not marry him." Sara had never heard her father speak to her that way. But why? "Because I know what life is like. Love is not enough. He is a good man. Good men don't always make good husbands." Sara stood silently. Her father continued. "You're young. You think love will solve everything. It won't." For the next several weeks, her family tried everything to change her mind. They introduced her to other men. They told her Ayan would never give her the life she deserved. They reminded her of everything they had sacrificed for her. And slowly, Sara began to feel guilty for loving him. One night, she sat beside her mother. "Am I really being selfish?" Her mother didn't answer. She simply held Sara's hand. And that silence hurt more than an argument. Because Sara knew her mother was asking her to choose. Family or love. And Sara had no idea that whichever choice she made, someone she loved was going to get hurt. For 3 days, Sara barely spoke to anyone. She stayed in her room, looking at the same photograph on her phone. It was a simple picture of Ayan. He was standing outside the bookstore, smiling at someone behind the camera. There was nothing special about the photograph. But Sara kept looking at it. She knew her father wasn't completely wrong. Love didn't pay bills. Love couldn't guarantee a peaceful marriage. Love couldn't tell you what would happen 5 years from now. But Sara also knew something else. Ayan had never promised her an easy life. He had promised to build a life with her. And there was a difference. On the 4th evening, Ayan came to her family's house with his parents. Sara's heart started beating faster when she saw them at the door. Her father welcomed them politely, but his face was serious. They sat in the living room. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Finally, Ayan's father said, "We know your concerns. We don't want to force anything. We only came because our son is serious about your daughter." Sara's father looked at Ayan. "What can you give her?" Ayan took a breath. "I can't give her everything today." Her father's expression hardened. "But I can give her my honesty, my respect, and my effort." Sara's father shook his head. "Effort doesn't guarantee success." "No," Ayan said quietly. "It doesn't." Everyone became silent. Then Ayan continued. "But money doesn't guarantee happiness either." Sara's mother looked down. Her father stood up. "I have made my decision." Ayan understood. So did Sara. The meeting was over. That night, Sara's father entered her room. He sat beside her. His voice was softer than before. "I don't want to lose my daughter." Sara looked at him. "You won't." You think you know what you're doing. I don't. Her father looked surprised. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I'm making the right decision. I'm scared too. Her father didn't speak. Sarah continued. But I'm more afraid of spending my whole life wondering what would have happened if I had trusted my heart. Her father looked away. For the first time, Sarah saw something she had never noticed before. Her father wasn't angry. He was afraid. Afraid that his daughter would suffer. Afraid that he would not be there to protect her. And maybe that was why he was fighting so hard. The wedding was planned for 6 weeks later. But Sarah's father refused to attend. Her mother wanted to come, but she couldn't bring herself to go against her husband. Sarah walked into the small wedding hall with only a few relatives beside her. She smiled for the photographs. She greeted the guests. She answered every congratulations with a quiet thank you. But every few minutes, her eyes went toward the entrance. She was hoping, even though she knew better. Then, just before the ceremony began, Sarah heard someone whisper, "Your father has come." She turned around. Her father was standing near the entrance. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't clapping. He didn't walk toward her. He simply stood there. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Their eyes met. Her father slowly nodded. It wasn't approval. It wasn't forgiveness. It was something smaller. Something more important. It was his way of saying, I may not understand your choice, but you're still my daughter. Sarah couldn't stop crying. And that was the moment she realized. Sometimes love doesn't look like a hug. Sometimes it looks like someone standing quietly at the back of a room. Because they cannot completely accept your decision. But they cannot stay away from you either. Sara married Ayan that evening. She thought the hardest part of her life was finally over. She was wrong. The real test of their love had not even begun. The first few months of marriage were beautiful. Not perfect. Beautiful. Ayan came home tired from work, and Sara would wait for him with dinner. Sometimes they had enough money. Sometimes they didn't. They laughed about small things. They dreamed about having their own house someday. On weekends, they walked through the market, looking at things they couldn't afford yet. Someday Ayan would say. Sara would smile. Someday. For a while, she believed that love really could solve everything. Then reality arrived. Ayan's company began having financial problems. His salary was delayed. Then it was reduced. Their rent was due. The electricity bill was waiting. And the small amount they had saved was disappearing quickly. One evening, Ayan came home unusually quiet. Sara knew immediately that something was wrong. What happened? Nothing. Ayan. He sat down. I lost my job. Sara didn't speak. She had imagined difficult days before. But imagining something and living through it were two different things. How long can we manage? She asked. Maybe 2 months. Sara looked at him. And after that? I don't know. For the first time since their wedding, neither of them had an answer. The next morning, Ayan started looking for work. He sent applications everywhere. He went to interviews. He came home disappointed again and again. Sometimes Sara could see the frustration on his face. Sometimes he didn't eat much. Sometimes he stayed awake long after she had gone to bed. Sara tried to encourage him. You'll find something. I know. But one night, Ayan suddenly said, Maybe your father was right. Sara froze. What? About me. Don't say that. He told you I couldn't give you the life you deserved. Sara stared at him. And now you believe him? Ayan looked down. I don't know what I believe anymore. That sentence changed something between them. Not because he had stopped loving her, but because fear had entered their marriage. And fear has a way of turning small problems into big ones. A few days later, Sara received a call from her mother. How are you? I'm fine. Her mother was quiet. Then she asked, Are you happy? Sara looked around the small apartment. She wanted to say yes, but she couldn't. I don't know, Mama. Her mother sighed. You can always come home. Sara closed her eyes. Those words should have comforted her. Instead, they made her feel ashamed. She didn't want to go home. She didn't want her father to look at her and think. I told you so. So she said. No, I'm okay. After the call ended, Sara sat alone for a long time. she realized something painful. She hadn't only married Ayan. She had also chosen a life that nobody else could live for her. And now she had to decide whether she was going to stand beside him when things became difficult, or quietly blame him for the life she had chosen. That evening, Ayan came home with a small paper bag. Sara looked inside. There was a pastry. Her favorite. "You bought this." "I had enough money for one." Sara smiled. "You shouldn't have." "I know." They both laughed. It was only one pastry. But Sara understood something that night. A good marriage wasn't about having everything. It was about what two people did when they had almost nothing. She broke the pastry into 2 pieces. Ayan looked at her. "You take the bigger one." Sara shook her head. "No, we'll share it." And for the first time in weeks, they smiled at each other. Neither of them knew that the next problem would come from the one person Sara thought she could always trust. Her father. 2 weeks later, Sara's father called her. She hadn't spoken to him directly since the wedding. For a moment, she simply stared at the phone. Then she answered. "Hello, Papa." There was silence on the other end. "How are you?" "I'm fine." He didn't ask about Ayan. He didn't ask about money. He simply said, "Come home tomorrow." Sara's heart tightened. "Why?" "I need to talk to you." "About what?" "I'll tell you when you come." The call ended. Sara looked at Ayan. "What happened?" "My father wants me to go home tomorrow." Ayan became quiet. "You should go. Are you okay with that?" "Of course." But Sara could see something in his eyes. He was worried. The next afternoon, Sara went to her parents' house. Everything looked exactly the same. The same curtains. The same old sofa. The same family photographs on the wall. But Sara felt like a guest in the house where she had grown up. Her mother hugged her tightly. Then her father called her into his study. He closed the door. Sara sat across from him. "What is it?" Her father opened a drawer and took out a folder. He placed it on the table. Sara looked confused. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside were several documents. Ayan's employment records. His previous business papers. And something else. Sara looked at her father. "You investigated him?" Her father didn't deny it. "I did." "Why?" "Because you were going to marry him." Sara felt angry. "You didn't trust me?" "I didn't trust the situation." She looked through the papers. Most of them were ordinary. Then she saw something that made her stop. Ayan had once been offered a much better job in another city, but he had refused it. Sara looked up. Why didn't he take this? Her father leaned back. Because his mother was sick. Sara's anger disappeared. What? He stayed because she needed him. Sara stared at the papers. Her father continued. I thought he was irresponsible when I first heard about it. Then I learned the truth. Sara didn't understand. Then why did you still reject him? Her father's face changed. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? He looked at her for a long moment. My father was poor. Sara had never heard him talk about his childhood like this. My mother worked all her life. We had very little. I promised myself that my children would never struggle the way I did. His voice became quieter. So when I saw Ayan, I didn't see the man he was. Sara listened. I saw the life I was trying to protect you from. Her eyes filled with tears. Papa. He looked away. I thought giving you a wealthy husband would guarantee your happiness. He paused. I was wrong. Sara didn't know what to say. For years, she had believed her father simply cared about money. Now she understood. His mistake hadn't come from a lack of love. It had come from fear. Then her father said something she never expected. I want you and Ayan to come here for dinner tomorrow. Sara stared at him. Both of us. He nodded. Yes. Why? Her father looked at her. Because I think it's time I get to know the man my daughter chose. Sara smiled through her tears. But there was one thing her father didn't know. Ayan had been hiding something from Sara. Something that could change everything. And the next evening, Sara was finally going to find out what it was. The next evening, Sara and Ayan arrived at her parents' house together. Sara was nervous. Ayan was even quieter than usual. Before they entered, Sara looked at him. Are you okay? Ayan nodded. I'm fine. She smiled. You don't look fine. He gave a small laugh. I'm just nervous. I am too. They walked inside. Sarah's mother welcomed them warmly. Her father stood near the dining table. For a moment, nobody knew what to say. Then he looked at Ayan. Sit down. They had dinner together. It was awkward at first. But slowly, the conversation became easier. Her father asked Ayan about work. Ayan answered honestly. He told him he was still looking for a job. He didn't pretend everything was fine. He didn't make excuses. After dinner, Sarah went to help her mother in the kitchen. When she returned, she noticed that her father and Ayan were still sitting together. They were talking quietly. Sarah smiled. Maybe things were finally getting better. Then Ayan stood up. I need to tell you something. Sarah's smile disappeared. What? Ayan looked at her father first. Then at Sarah. I've accepted a job. Sarah's face brightened. Really? He nodded. It's in another city. The smile disappeared from her face. Another city? Yes. How far? About 4 hours away. Sarah stared at him. When did you find this job? 3 weeks ago. Sarah felt confused. 3 weeks. Ayan nodded. Why didn't you tell me? He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, because I wasn't sure I could take it. Why? Ayan looked at her. The salary is good. Much better than my old job. Sarah waited. But the company needs me to move there. She sat down. And you were going to decide without telling me? No. He shook his head. I wanted to tell you after I was certain. Sarah felt hurt. You should have told me when you applied. I know. Her father remained silent. Ayan continued. I thought about refusing it. Why? Because I know what moving away from your family means. Sarah looked at him. I don't want you to lose your family because of me. Ayan's voice became softer. I already asked you to choose me once. I don't want you to spend the rest of your life regretting it. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Then her father spoke. Take the job. Everyone looked at him. Ayan seemed surprised. Her father continued. Don't refuse an opportunity because you're afraid of what people will say. Sarah looked at her father. He smiled faintly. I spent years thinking a good life meant giving my daughter everything. He looked at Ayan. Maybe a good life means giving her the freedom to build something with the person she loves. Ayan lowered his eyes. Thank you. Her father nodded. But Sarah wasn't ready to accept the decision. She was frightened. A new city. A new home. Starting over again. That night, while they were driving home, Sarah looked out of the window. I'm scared. Ayan reached for her hand. So am I. She looked at him. Then why are you smiling? Because we're scared together. Sarah laughed through her tears. For the first time since their wedding, she realized something. Marriage wasn't about finding someone who could remove every problem from your life. It was finding someone who would sit beside you while you faced them. But neither Sarah nor Ayan knew that their biggest challenge wasn't the new city. It was something waiting for them in their old home. And it would force Sarah to make another choice. This time, between her husband and her family. The next few weeks were busy. Sarah and Ayan packed their small apartment. They didn't have many things. 2 suitcases, a few boxes, some kitchen utensils, and the little collection of things they had bought together since their wedding. Sarah folded their clothes while Ayan packed the books. This one is mine, Sarah said, holding up a book. Ayan smiled. You haven't read it. I will. You've been saying that for 6 months. I will eventually. They both laughed. For a few minutes, everything felt normal. Then Sarah's phone rang. It was her mother. Are you leaving tomorrow? Yes. Her mother's voice became quiet. Take care of yourself. I will. And call me when you arrive. I promise. There was a pause. Then her mother said, Your father wants to talk to Ayan. Sarah looked at Ayan. Papa wants to talk to you. Ayan nodded. He took the phone. Hello, Uncle. Sarah couldn't hear everything, but she heard her father's voice become serious. A few minutes later, Ayan ended the call. What did he say? Ayan looked at her. He offered me money. Sarah was shocked. What? He said we should take some money to help us settle in the new city. Sarah immediately shook her head. No. Ayan smiled. I said no too. Why? Because he already thinks I can't provide for you. Sara looked at him. I don't want to prove anything to him. I know. Then why refuse? Ayan took a breath. Because I want our first home to be built with what we earn ourselves. Sara smiled. She knew it wasn't about pride. It was about dignity. The next morning, they left. Her mother cried at the door. Her father stood behind her. He didn't say much. He simply walked toward Ayan and held out his hand. Ayan shook it. Then her father said quietly, "Take care of my daughter." Ayan replied, "I will." Her father looked at Sara. "And don't be afraid to come home if you ever need us." Sara smiled. "I know." The car pulled away. Sara watched her parents disappear through the window. She didn't know when she would see them again. But she felt peaceful. For the first time, her father wasn't trying to control her life. He was simply trusting her to live it. The new city was difficult at first. The apartment was small. The streets were unfamiliar. Ayan worked long hours. Sara struggled to find work. Some evenings, they ate simple meals because they were trying to save money. But slowly, things improved. Sara found a job at a small design company. Ayan received his first full salary. They bought a second-hand dining table. It wasn't beautiful. One leg was slightly uneven. But they loved it. "This is our first real piece of furniture," Sara said. Ayan smiled. "Then we should take a picture." They did. Years later, that photograph would still be hanging in their home. But before those years could come, Sara received a phone call from her mother. And this time, her mother's voice sounded different. She was crying. "Beta, your father is in the hospital." Sara froze. Her entire world seemed to stop. "Is he okay?" Her mother didn't answer. Sara looked at Ayan. "We're going home." And this time, there was no question about choosing between family and love. They were going together. Sara and Ayan drove through the night. Sara barely spoke. She kept calling her mother, but every time the phone rang, her hands started shaking. "Is he awake?" Her mother finally answered. "No." Sara closed her eyes. Ayan reached over and held her hand. "He's strong," he said. Sara nodded, but tears were already falling. When they reached the hospital, Sara ran inside. Her mother was sitting outside the room. The moment she saw Sara, she stood up and hugged her. "My child." Sara held her tightly. "How's Papa?" "He had a heart problem." Sara looked toward the hospital room. "Can I see him?" Her mother nodded. Sara entered quietly. Her father was lying on the bed. He looked smaller than she remembered. For a moment, she didn't see the strict father who had once refused her marriage. She only saw her father, the man who had carried her when she was little, the man who had waited outside her school, the man who had taught her how to ride a bicycle. She sat beside him and held his hand. "Papa." His eyes slowly opened. He looked at her. Then he smiled. "You came." Sara started crying. "Of course I came." He looked toward the door. "Ayan." "He's outside." Her father nodded. "Call him." Ayan entered. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Then Sara's father looked at him. "I was wrong about you." Ayan shook his head. "Please don't say that." "No." Her father squeezed Sara's hand. "I need to say it." His voice was weak. "I thought I knew what was best for my daughter." He looked at Ayan. "I thought money would protect her." Ayan remained silent. Her father continued. "But I watched you leave everything behind to come here when you heard I was sick." He looked at Sara. "And I realized something." He smiled faintly. "A person doesn't prove love by what they can buy." Sara cried harder. Her father looked at Ayan again. "Thank you for taking care of her." Ayan's eyes became wet. "She takes care of me too." Her father smiled. "I know." For the first time, all three of them laughed. It was a small laugh, but it felt like years of tension had finally broken. Sara stayed at the hospital for several days. Ayan stayed too. He brought food. He spoke with the doctors. He helped her mother. He never once complained. One evening, Sara's father asked Ayan to sit beside him. "I owe you an apology." Ayan looked surprised. "You don't owe me anything." "I do." Her father took a breath. When Sara chose you, I thought she was choosing a difficult life. He looked toward the window. But I was wrong. Ayan smiled. Life is difficult sometimes. Her father nodded. Yes. Then he looked at him. But it becomes easier when two people don't run away from each other when things become difficult. Ayan smiled. That is true. A few days later, Sara's father was discharged. Before Sara and Ayan returned to the city, her father called Sara into the living room. He gave her an old envelope. What is this? Open it when you get home. Sara looked confused. Why not now? Her father smiled. Because some things are easier to understand when you're alone. Sara hugged him. Then she and Ayan left. That night, after they returned to their apartment, Sara opened the envelope. Inside was an old photograph. It was a picture of her parents when they were young. On the back was a handwritten sentence. Your mother and I were once two people everyone told would never make it. Sara stared at the photograph. Then she looked at Ayan. And suddenly, she understood something about her father she had never known. Something that changed the entire story. Sara kept staring at the old photograph. Her mother looked so young. Her father looked even younger. They were standing outside a tiny rented house, smiling at the camera. Sara turned the photograph over again. The sentence was still there. Your mother and I were once two people everyone told would never make it. She looked at Ayan. I never knew this. Maybe your father never talked about it. Sara picked up the phone. She called her mother. Mama, can I ask you something? Of course. Were you and Papa ever poor? Her mother laughed softly. We were very poor. Sara smiled. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because your father didn't like talking about those days. Why? There was a pause. Because he was ashamed of them. Sara looked at the photograph. Her mother continued. When we got married, your father had almost nothing. We rented one small room. Sometimes we couldn't afford proper meals. Sara listened quietly. Then why did you stay? Her mother laughed. Because I loved him. Sara smiled. But wasn't it difficult? Very. Did you ever regret it? Her mother became quiet. No. Sara looked at Ayan. Her mother continued. Your father used to work 2 jobs. I worked too. We saved everything we could. We built our life slowly. Then why did Papa care so much about money when I wanted to marry Ayan? Her mother's voice became softer. Because he remembered being afraid. Sara understood. Her father hadn't forgotten his difficult childhood. He had spent his entire life trying to make sure his daughter would never experience it. But in protecting her from hardship, he had almost forgotten that hardship wasn't always the same thing as unhappiness. That night, Sara couldn't sleep. She thought about everything that had happened. Her father had rejected Ayan. Then he had accepted him. Ayan had lost his job. They had struggled. They had moved away. Her father had become sick. And somehow, through all of it, their family had become closer. The next morning, Sara called her father. Papa? Yes. I saw the photograph. He was silent. Your mother told you? Yes. He sighed. I didn't want you to know those things. Why? Because I wanted you to have a better life than I did. Sara smiled. Papa, I think I do. There was silence. Then her father asked, Are you happy? Sara looked across the room. Ayan was trying to fix the uneven leg of their old dining table. He looked up at her and smiled. She smiled back. Yes, Papa. Her father laughed quietly. Then I did something right. Sara wiped a tear from her cheek. You did many things right. She paused. But you made one mistake. What? You thought you had to protect me from every difficult thing. Her father became quiet. Sara continued. Sometimes, Papa, we don't need someone to make our life easy. We just need someone who stays when life becomes difficult. Her father didn't answer immediately. Then he said, I understand now. And for the first time, Sara felt that her father wasn't simply accepting her marriage. He was finally understanding it. Years passed. Sara and Ayan continued building their life. They weren't rich. They still argued sometimes. They still had difficult months. But they learned how to apologize, how to listen, how to forgive, and how to choose each other again and again. Their little apartment eventually became a home. And that old photograph of Sarah's parents? Sara framed it and placed it beside a photograph of herself and Ayan. 2 generations. 2 love stories. Both imperfect. Both difficult. But both real. And perhaps that was the lesson Sarah's father had been trying to teach her all along, even before he understood it himself. Years passed quietly. Sara sometimes wondered how quickly life could change. The woman who had once cried because her father wouldn't accept her marriage was now sitting at her parents' dining table, laughing with everyone. Her father had changed too. He no longer asked Ayan how much money he earned. Instead, he asked him, "When are you coming for dinner again?" Ayan always laughed. "Whenever you invite me." Her father would pretend to be annoyed. "I am inviting you now." And Sara would smile. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was real. One Sunday afternoon, Sara was helping her mother in the kitchen when her father called her. "Sara." "Yes, Papa. Come here." She walked into the living room. Her father was holding an old photograph. It was the photograph Sara had found years earlier. He handed it to her. "Keep this. I already have one. This one is different." She looked at it. On the back, her father had written something new. Sara read it. "I spent years trying to protect you from hardship. Then you taught me that hardship is not the same as an unhappy life." Sara's eyes filled with tears. "Papa." He smiled. "You were right." Sara shook her head. "No, Papa. We were both learning." Her father laughed. "Maybe that's what families do." Sara sat beside him. After a moment, he asked, "Does Ayan still make you laugh?" Sara smiled. "Almost every day." "Good." He nodded. "Then I made the right decision." Sara looked at him. "What decision?" "To stop making your decisions for you." They both laughed. That evening, Sara and Ayan drove home. The road was quiet. Sara looked out of the window. "Are you happy?" Ayan smiled. "Why are you asking?" "I don't know." He thought for a moment. "Yes, even though we didn't get the perfect life?" Ayan looked at her. "Who gets a perfect life?" Sara smiled. He continued. "I don't want a perfect life." "What do you want?" "I want this one." Sara looked at him. "Our small house." "You're terrible cooking." "My cooking isn't terrible." "It is. You ate it yesterday." "I was hungry." They both laughed. Sara rested her head against the seat. She thought about the girl she had been years ago. She had once believed that love meant choosing one person over everyone else. Now she understood something different. Love wasn't about choosing between people. Sometimes, it was about giving people enough time to understand each other. Her father had needed time. Her family had needed time. She and Ayan had needed time. And perhaps that was why their story had survived. Not because they never struggled. Not because they always agreed. But because when life gave them reasons to walk away, they kept finding reasons to stay. Sara looked at the framed photograph on the wall when they arrived home. Her parents. Then her and Ayan. 2 generations. 1 lesson. A good life isn't a life without problems. It's a life where you don't have to face those problems alone. And sometimes, the person standing against your love today may simply be someone who is afraid of seeing you hurt tomorrow. People can be wrong. Parents can be wrong. We can be wrong too. But if there is love, patience, honesty, and forgiveness, even a broken relationship can find its way home. And that was how Sara finally understood what her father had been trying to give her all along. Not a perfect life. Just a life filled with people who would always come back to her. 20 years had passed since the day Sara stood at the entrance of that small wedding hall, wondering whether she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She was now sitting in the same living room where her father had once told her, "You will not marry him." But everything was different now. Her parents were older. Her mother was sitting in the garden, watching her grandchildren play. Her father was sitting beside Ayan, arguing about football as if they had been friends their entire lives. Sara stood at the doorway and smiled. She remembered how much pain there had once been between them. And now, they were all together. Ayan walked toward her. "What are you smiling about?" "Nothing. You're definitely thinking about something." Sara looked at her family. I was just thinking about how different everything is. Ayan smiled. You mean how your father finally likes me? Sara laughed. He likes you more than he likes me. That is true. Don't get too confident. They laughed. Later that evening, Sara's father called her into the garden. She sat beside him. He looked at the children playing. You know, he said, I used to think being a good father meant making every decision for you. Sara listened. Then I realized something. What? A parent can show a child the road. He smiled. But eventually, the child has to walk it. Sara held his hand. I'm glad you let me walk mine. Her father nodded. I almost didn't. They sat quietly. Then he said, Do you remember the day you told me you wanted to marry Ayan? Sara laughed. I remember everything. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. He smiled. I was terrified. Of what? Of losing you. Sara looked at him. You didn't lose me. I know that now. He squeezed her hand. I just wish I had understood it sooner. Sara leaned her head against his shoulder. You understand it now. Her father smiled. And for a while, neither of them said anything. Sometimes, after years of arguments and misunderstandings, there is nothing left to explain. You simply sit beside the person you love and feel grateful that you still have time. That night, everyone gathered around the dinner table. There was too much food, too much talking, too much laughter. And Sara suddenly realized something. Her father had once believed that a good life meant giving his daughter everything. A big house, financial security, a comfortable future. But life had taught them all a different lesson. A good life wasn't measured by the size of your house, or the amount of money in your bank account, or whether everything went according to plan. Sometimes a good life looked like this. A family sitting around one table. A husband who stayed during difficult years. A father who learned to let go. A daughter who learned to forgive. And people who, despite everything they had been through, still chose each other. Sara looked at Ayan. He smiled at her. And she smiled back. 20 years earlier, she had been afraid that choosing love would mean losing her family. She had been wrong. Love had not taken her family away. It had taught them how to understand one another. And perhaps that is what love is sometimes. Not a perfect beginning. Not a perfect journey. Not a perfect ending. Just two people saying, I'm still here. Again and again. Until one day, you look around and realize you've built a home together. The end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Choice to Learn. And remember, sometimes the people who love us most make mistakes because they are afraid of losing us. Be patient with the people you love. Listen before you judge. Forgive when you can. And never forget that a beautiful life isn't built by avoiding every difficult moment. It's built by having people beside you when those moments come. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next story.